Good afternoon. A massive weekend of football, some massive upsets. I want to discuss lots of issues today, including the latest on Ollie Wines and his heart scare. Want to discuss a huge injury toll from the weekend. I'll give you the insight on what's happening there. Also want to discuss what I think some of the headlines and discussion points will be this week. But I'll start off this morning with Paddy Ryder and the incident yesterday that left Day concussed and subbed out in their game. I think now it's an issue, in my opinion, of whether Ryder gets 1 or 2 weeks based on whether the impact was medium or high. Sam Mitchell spoke post-game and said that Day wasn't well. He was unfortunately concussed last year as well. But if you just go through, there's been debate overnight and this morning as to whether that type of motion by Ryder should be suitable for a suspension. Ryder, in my view, elected to bump. Was it high? Yes. Did he have an alternative? Yes. So I think it's pretty clear that it's careless. You then start to look at the contact grading. I don't think it'll be severe because I think it was a slightly delayed concussion. So you'd be looking at medium or high in terms of the impact. So I think Ryder is looking at 1 or 2 weeks, which will be a discussion point, no doubt. The MRO will come out at about 6 o'clock tonight. A blow for Port Adelaide and Ollie Wines. He's going to miss at least 2 or 3 weeks, potentially longer, because of the medication that he's now required to be on, I understand, because of his significant heart scare on Thursday night. In terms of his well-being, he's fine, according to the club when I spoke to them overnight. He's going to have some more tests this week. His cardiologist, according to Port Adelaide, has ruled out any link with the vaccine or COVID, which I think is good news. There's been some big discussion surrounding that aspect of the story over the course of the weekend. But because of this medication that he's on, he'll miss at least 2 or 3 weeks, which is a blow for Port Adelaide. They'll also be keen to lock down the cause of that heart scare. We know that Crozier suffered a heart scare a couple of weeks ago, which has triggered some of this discussion as to why some of these young athletes are getting this. It's worth keeping in mind that has happened in recent history in footy before. Matthew Cruiser, a case in point, but Wines will miss some footy and he'll continue to explore the reasons for that heart scare, which you hate to see with some specialists this week. But according to his cardiologist, which Port tell me, there's no issue with the vaccine or with COVID, which has, I guess, been a discussion point over the weekend and again today. Unfortunately, some massive injuries out of the weekend, most notably perhaps Jamie Elliott for the Pies. They obviously need some goal-kicking options and score power, Collingwood. It's well documented. Elliott will miss, I understand, at least 12 weeks when he has his shoulder, his AC joint reconstructed or fixed at least this week. Buddy Franklin will see a specialist in Sydney regarding his broken finger today. That's expected usually to keep him out for about 4 weeks, but we'll wait on confirmation of the exact timeline from the Swans. And a bit of a disaster for the Blues last night. They've been accused of being Paddy Cripps reliant. Well, it came home to roost yesterday. Cripps subbed out with a hamstring injury. Carlton struggled against the Suns. That's expected to be at least a 3 or 4 week hamstring, but again, we're waiting on the official scan and obviously prognosis from the club today. Just want to discuss the potential agenda items on my radar this week. From Collingwood's perspective, there'll be big discussion as to whether they need a forward. Clearly, long term they do. And what they do in the short term, where they bring back Cameron or Cox, obviously with Kruger continuing to be injured. They obviously struggled without Adams and De Goey on the weekend. There's no surprise there. They're both champion players. So the obvious question out of that is when they're going to start, on Collingwood's terms, De Goey's contract talks. That's a delicate matter because he's still kind of on his last chance from a behaviour point of view. So Collingwood will be a discussion point this week. The Giants are an intriguing one. 34 points they lost to Fremantle by. It looks more and more difficult based on performances like that to see Leon Cameron there next year, based on the fact that he's uncontracted and they've delayed those talks. What sort of impact will that have on Tim Taranto's contract talks, or possibly some type of impact, given the fact they're not winning a lot of games at the moment? There's plenty of clubs into Taranto. And of course, the other discussion point, I shouldn't laugh, it's going to be the Blues, who have had a very good start to the season, but 30 points they were defeated by the Suns last night. Their midfield was smashed. Chera struggled at times. Their defence looked a bit shaky as well. I'll leave that to the footy experts in terms of breaking down the Blues' issues, but the obvious question will be where they're at and whether we might have got a bit ahead of ourselves collectively in terms of judging them. We'll see. Anyway, there's a couple of discussion points on the radar this week. Just recapping on the Buddy Franklin situation with his finger, I'm told a short time ago that he'll see the surgeon there this afternoon. They'll know more about surgery and the time frame, according to some Swans sources. I've spoken to John Platten over the weekend. I've got an interview with him on 7 News tonight concerning his concussion. He's got some concerning concussion results back from the UK over the weekend. I'll explain more on that story tonight. We'll have plenty more on our podcast. It's going to be a big news week, I reckon, on Thursday and Friday. Thanks so much for joining us. A brief one today, but there'll be plenty on this week. And thanks for joining us again on my podcast.
That was Tom Brown's News. Come back every Monday, Thursday and Friday for more, and subscribe to Triple M Footy on Listener or wherever you listen to get all our podcasts throughout the season. For Ream Hot Water and McDonald's, Triple M rocks footy.